Welcome to episode 68 of The Leap Home, a song for the soul.
In this week's episode, Sam has to help a young girl repair a strained relationship with her father without giving up on her dreams of stardom as part of a Chicago soul group. With a sleazy club owner keen to tie the girl down to an onerous contract, can Sam find a way to help her find success without having to leave home? Or will her father be left alone when the music stops?
Watch out for this guy, Sam. He's slicker than spit on a patent leather shoe.
Good evening, Ian. How are things?
Oh, a bit strung out tonight, Gerry. How are you?
I'm feeling slick.
That's good.
What do you make of this week's episode?
I thought that despite the sort of fluffy presentation, it was quite a heavy episode in terms of what it was dealing with.
Did you think so?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't necessarily deal with everything, but in terms of the tone of the episode, it was much darker than the setup implied it might be.
Sure. I also thought that it was slightly unresolved, not just in terms of the ending, but in who you're meant to root for or who you see as sort of the good guys and bad. Obviously, there's one obvious bad guy, but I'm not sure all the characters are
shades of grey.
Yes.
But not in the way that you would, the sort of the well-constructed way where everyone's meant to be shades of grey. It's just it doesn't quite finish what it sets out to do. We'll get to that towards the end, I think.
Before we discuss, you want to do the socials?
Sure, as always, we are at Leap Home Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, etc. You can find show notes for every episode at theleaphome.com, and you can hear every episode 1 week early over on the Columbo Podcast Productions YouTube channel.
We're a bit behind in our schedule tonight, so do you want to begin?
That's a good idea.
Let's crack on.
The intro is a little bit different from what we saw at the end of last week's episode.
Was it?
So when they come off stage, what we saw last week was Bobby telling them they wanted to do an encore, but what we saw in this week's episode was the audience cheering for them.
Right. In both cases, we see Sam bang his head on some lights as he leaves the stage this time with two other excited girls. I think their names Linnell and Paula.
That's correct.
And it's to the sound of applause at Bobby Lee's club.
It is, and they're dragged back, or Sam is dragged back on stage by the other two to perform this.
After he's caught a glimpse of himself and is stunned to see who is he this time.
He's a black teenager girl in this band.
But he doesn't have time to take it all in before I think his name's Cherie, is that right?
Yes.
Is dragged back on for this encore, and we get an oh boy.
After the credits, we return to the club on the 7th of April 1963.
Yeah, as the nonplussed audience watch as Sam pitifully tries to sing and dance along to their cover of My Boyfriend's Back.
Yeah, he completely sinks the performance, and the reaction is considerably more muted than it had been. Yeah,
well, by the time that the song comes to an end, the place is now half empty, and they only get a smattering of recognition this time.
Yeah, so outside, a wee bit later on, we see Sam and the other two crossing a busy road, or a main road anyway.
Yeah, and they are disappointed not to have won this competition that they have been in. And Paula remarks that Bobby Lee was scoping Linnell out.
No doubt. Sam is concerned that they're out so late.
Well, yeah, he reverts to type, and this is the first of a few times in this episode. And he starts moaning about them, as you say, being out on their own, but gets a chance to show why.
Yes, so some guys are harassing them a little bit from a stairwell.
It's like sort of like, a street corner quartet. This is the type of thing, and I don't think it is totally fictionalised for the movies and TV, but you would never ever have this in this country. Like just guys sort of sing. I mean, it's creative and it's nice. I wish you would have this type of sort of street performance, but you don't. The thought of this happening in Glasgow, you would be roundly set upon.
I would imagine so.
It reminds me a little bit. I mean, other examples would be the start of Rocky, where you've got the guys outside beside the fire, in the barrel, and Rocky walks by. I think it's Frank Stallone who's leading the singing, but they're having a drink from a bottle, passing it around, and having a sing song, which is great. But it's just impossible to imagine how that would go down here.
I don't think it would work. I don't think it would. Even in the 60s, I don't think it would have worked.
No.
The guys seem to know Paula.
Do they?
Well, one of them grabs her by the shoulder and addresses her by name.
They effectively harass them, and I think they harass Sam, which leads to him using his kung fu skills.
Yeah, he ninjas the living daylights out of them, and they run away.
Yeah, the girls are obviously surprised and amused at this as they reenact his moves and think that something must have happened to him when he banged his head on the lights. Now, this is interesting because I think this is a device that he could use more often.
Yeah, get injured and concussed.
Take a knock to the head and it allows you to not be quite compos mentis.
Yeah, and it kind of covered up the bad dancing and the poor performance as well
just
for him.
Not remembering people's names or being unsure about things. I think every leap, if he had to receive a head injury of sorts, it would buy him a little bit of time, I suppose.
There's a cumulative effect that he maybe wants to avoid.
I'm not
Unless it's somebody else's body.
I'm not suggesting, well, that's it. I'm not suggesting he does actually bang it, but if he uses that as an excuse.
A fake head injury, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, he hurries them homeward. They eventually arrive, and although Sam declines the invite to stay the night, they're met by Linnell's very angry father, who happens to be a familiar face.
Anna! In my office right now! Right this minute!
Oh yes, we remember him fondly.
We do, he's brilliant. From 2 shows, we should say, that we've covered.
Yeah, we can come to that in the trivia, or we can do it now. What do you think?
No, let's wait for the trivia.
Okay, so he comes out and yells at the girls to get inside, all 3 of them.
And when in there, Sam admits what we've always discussed and thought. He boasts about how much he agrees with the father, who is a Reverend Walters. And
You should say that's in voiceover.
Yes, and how dangerous the streets are. So he's showing his typical... I mean, that's the thing. Why can he not attempt in any way to act like the person he's leaped into?
He's got such conservative instincts. It's even the way he phrases this, that the Reverend is as grounded in reality as the walk they just took home.
It's odious. I don't necessarily disagree with the father's response. It doesn't. In fact, I agree with the father's response. You wouldn't want your teenage daughters wandering the streets of a big city at night when you don't know about it. But there's ways of, I don't know. You can be more understanding, more sympathetic, and Sam can be to these girls who are not his daughters.
It's just such a...
This is an old man view.
Yeah, he's got no sense of joie de vivre. Anyhow, at this point, Reverend Walters tells the girls that he's called the other two's parents.
To explain about the lying, to which Linnell says that they wouldn't have to if he would just come along and hear them perform.
He says that he doesn't think Chicago's safe at night for young girls out alone, and he does not believe they should be singing in a brothel. And
then tells Sam that his parents are out, so he is to stay the night with them.
I think one of the girls, maybe Paula, says it's not a brothel.
Yeah, it's one of these, it's a joint that perhaps isn't technically a brothel, but there may be...
I don't think it's a brothel at all. I think he's just got negative opinions of certain clubs and certain owners.
I'm not sure. I mean, it might not be a brothel as its primary, but...
Well, we've just seen inside it. They were singing on a stage to an audience. There was no indication of any kind of...
That doesn't mean they say that
maybe
upstairs or whatever you can pick up.
Certainly, we've not seen any evidence of any of that type of activity.
No, not yet.
Okay. Linnell pleads with her father at this point to understand how important singing is to the 3 of them.
But he dismisses it as nonsense and reminds her that she can sing for God and his congregation at his church.
He tells her it's nonsense not to be finishing school or making the best out of herself.
This only upsets her more, and when he puts his foot down to point out that she is under his roof, she cries that she will happily leave it and won't let the confinement kill her, like apparently, supposedly, it killed her mother before storming out to her room.
Paula tells the Reverend that she probably didn't mean that.
But he knows that she did. He loves her, but must do what he knows is right, and that she will understand when she gets older.
That's wishful thinking. At this point, Sam offers to walk Paula back to her house, not even taking the context into consideration at all.
It doesn't. Why put some effort in, Sam, to realise who you're meant to be?
Yeah, why would the Reverend think it's okay for you, a fellow teenage girl, to walk her home? That's not making her any safer.
No.
He's just been furious at you for walking here.
Yeah. So he leaves to walk Paula himself, which allows Sam to speak with Al for the first time in the leap. Now, typically, he doesn't have much information other than Linnell's mother died 5 years earlier. Apparently she went to bed where she stayed for 6 months before passing away.
This information is worse than useless. It'd be better to have said nothing here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She went to bed for 6 months and died. That's nonsense.
Yeah, there was no autopsy, which seems strange.
So who's reported that she went to bed for 6 months? Where's he getting that information from?
Exactly.
But you can't tell him what she died of, even though we find out later on that Walters knows what she died of.
Mm-hmm. Ziggy also doesn't know why Sam is there, but as Sam tries to find out something useful, Linnell enters and catches him talking to himself.
What do you know?
Know about what?
What do you know? You still have this old picture of us.
Good recovery, Sam.
I just got that printed last week.
Oh, not so good.
Boy, time sure flies when you're having fun, doesn't it?
Yeah, you should have quit while you're ahead.
People are gonna think you're as crazy as I feel.
You're not crazy.
I'm going to be if I don't get out of this miserable house.
Ziggy says she runs away day after tomorrow.
What happened?
You heard him.
No data.
He's got my life planned for the next 20 years.
Seems to me like your father's just trying to protect you.
He wants to control me.
He loves you.
Yeah, but it's killing me, Cherie. The same way that it killed my mother.
Don't look at me. Ziggy's working on it.
I don't think that your mother's death was your father's fault.
You weren't here, Cherie. You don't know what it was like. I mean, she had no friends. She wasn't allowed out except to go to church. And she didn't even...
All right, look, you're just angry right now, okay? But if
No, I'm not. And I'm not gonna let him lock me in and make me shrivel up and die just so he won't be alone. Look, I'm hungry. You want some chicken?
What's gonna happen to her?
Well, she runs away and tries to become a singer. Then she gets locked into a save contract with some guy named Bobby Lee.
Bobby Lee. Wait a second.
And then things go downhill after that.
What do you mean downhill?
Well, crummy clubs, drugs, arrests.
And her father?
Her father dies in 72, right after he loses his church to a fire. He and Linnell never speak to each other again.
Nice, Cherie.
So, sometime later, we find Sam in the gospel choir led by Linnell of a typically enthusiastic American church, with everyone singing and dancing as the Reverend preaches like a... I have to say this, like a snake oil tele-evangelist. He's one step away from that.
Yeah, he wants their money.
This type of, my thoughts anyway, I'm very, very not pro-religion, especially organised religion, and this to me, people might look at it and go, oh, aren't they having fun? It's great, all this dancing in the aisles. But if I was looking at, to me, it's like brainwashing.
Cultish behaviour.
It's cultish behaviour. And it's just the same way, if you to program, if you to sit down and go, right, we're going to set up a cult, we have to control people emotionally, we have to get them to buy into things, we use music, we use this sort of, evangelical chanting. The trunk here, it's one step away from someone laying your hand on your head and
Call him trunk.
sorry, the Reverend, and telling them that they're, they can cure all their illnesses, and it's just infuriating.
Yeah.
Stop buying into this nonsense.
Yeah, and what he's teaching them is garbage as well, about protecting the children from...
Yeah, I mean, his sermon is clearly a personal message to his daughter, reinforcing his belief that he has to protect her from temptation and the evils that are waiting for her in the outside world.
It's just terrible from start to finish, and sets him up as, in my opinion, a villain.
Well, that's the thing. That's what we alluded to at the top of the podcast. I'm not sure, if we're meant to get behind the Reverend or not. You can understand his worry and wanting to care for his daughter, but on the other hand, we're led to believe that he is controlling, and perhaps he is emotionally abusive, certainly, and perhaps physically, as we see later, and that may have also been his actions towards his deceased wife. We don't know. So you're not sure, is this guy a good guy? Is he a bad guy?
We never really get a certain answer to that.
Both Linnell and Sam understand who the audience for this sermon is, and neither is particularly happy. Although I have to say that it was a great performance by Harrison Page here.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, yeah, very much so. I quite enjoyed how much of a contrast this is to something like Sister Act, where the girl who wanted to sing found the church as the place where she could express that, and then became, successful through that. Whereas this is the exact opposite. She's got that, but what she wants is something more mainstream.
But see, the thing is, my understanding as well, there's numerous successful artists, singers, male and female, who this is like a sort of gateway. They do come through there's a gospel scene. There's gospel music's a genre.
But this isn't what Linnell wants. Although she clearly enjoys the singing, you can see from her
But what I'm
face.
saying is, this isn't a dead end. There is an opportunity to come from the gospel choir and gospel singing. It'd be a sort of breeding ground, as it were, for this type of talent.
The impression I get here is that she enjoys the singing. She doesn't really enjoy being preached at.
Yeah, but, I mean, that's a fair enough attitude to have. What's not fair enough, I think Al buys right into...
he's joining in with everything.
He thinks that everyone's a real cool dude.
Oh, yeah, well, if that's what you subscribe to,
we're getting more hints at Al's less than liberal views as well, or more old-fashioned views, I should say.
Outdated, maybe a better word than old-fashioned.
Is that not the same thing, no?
Discredited.
Okay.
In the vestry, I should say Sam walks out in the middle of this.
I'm not sure you should just do that without being...
But he does. He goes to the vestry and talks to Al there. Fortunately, Ziggy has a very clear idea of what he needs to do to complete his task.
Yeah, he does, but Sam dismisses this, the 90%.
90%?
Yes, that he's there to keep Linnell out of show business. Bugger off, Sam.
Yeah, Sam knows better, obviously. Well, if I was Ziggy, I'd be like, next time you leap, you're on your own. Yeah,
it's look, why only listen to the stats if you're in your favour? I mean, it's like any other type of stats, isn't it? You can... Twist them and... Yeah,
no, but he's just ignoring Ziggy, who is meant to be his guide, or Al's meant to be his guide, with the help of Ziggy's encyclopedic knowledge of everything that's ever happened, except for the things that he needs to know. Yeah, generally.
90% is very high. You wouldn't be dismissing that.
No, you'd be saying that I will at least give that some consideration.
Because if you look back as well, most of the time Ziggy is right.
Yeah. And he's happy to rely on Ziggy when he's not sure. Mm-hmm. In fact, he yells at Al when Ziggy doesn't give him the information that he wants.
Instead, he thinks he has to make sure that the Reverend supports his daughter, which will keep the relationship together, and asks why they've got to trust Ziggy's stats over his own. Because he doesn't have any stats.
No, just gut feeling.
Yeah.
Sees it in her eyes.
Al goes on to mention that they're meant to sing a local contest in 2 days' time, with the winners getting $100 and the chance to try out for the Regal Theatre, which is a bit like Chicago's, which is Chicago's version of the Apollo.
Yes.
This is a big deal.
Yeah, it'll be a very big deal, especially at their age.
Yeah.
But apparently Linnell will be dragged off stage during the performance by her father, leading to a permanent falling out.
So Sam thinks that this supports his theory as to why he is there, but is unsure about how he's going to get the Reverend to show patience and support for his daughter. More worryingly, he realises that he's going to have to sing even though he isn't a teenage girl and doesn't know the songs or the moves.
What does he mean worryingly? He loves singing.
He gets into it. We see it again here.
Yeah.
At first he's nervous, but after a few bars he's down with it.
There's good news though, because Al used to visit the Regal Theatre in its heyday and knows all the moves.
Yeah, I mean, he also points out it's never stopped him in the past, as you said there.
Yeah.
He says that the odds of them winning the competition, I think, is 50-50. But this can be improved with the right moves and the
right choice of song.
Yeah.
We then transport ourselves to Linnell's bedroom, where the three girls are rehearsing with Al, trying to teach Sam the moves as he goes along. Yeah,
they're in front of a mirror practicing Do You Love Me? And after the montage of them getting their act together, Sam joins in the celebration. So he's bought into this. He's enjoying it. He likes the fact that they're...
Yeah, but though they're happy, I don't think Linnell is satisfied with their song choice.
No, she thinks that the song's a bit yesterday, a bit old-fashioned itself, and needs something with a bit more fire.
Yeah, and Al, who has access to an encyclopedic library of all the songs that have ever been successful, he could tell them what's going to be number one next week, but yet cannot come up with an idea.
No, they try and brainstorm, and as they do, the answer is provided by the creepy Bobby Lee, who's now standing at their bedroom door.
That is creepy.
Yeah.
Regardless of his reason. Yes, that's the instant ick, isn't it?
Yeah. He thinks they should be singing Heatwave by Martha and the Vandellas, which he's got an early release copy of.
He does. Sam urges him to get out.
But the coquettish Linnell is clearly less troubled by his appearance.
She is won over by his silver tongue, as he tells her he was simply walking down the street, and it's not his fault he ended up in their bedroom when he was attracted by the
young
music and the young women.
Al also realises the guy's a creep, as we heard at the top of the podcast. Sam insists that he leaves, and Bobby Lee agrees, but not before handing the record to Linnell and telling her if they sing, they are certain to win the competition, as he inappropriately strokes her face.
Yes, fondles her hair and makes her blush. Sam asks why Bobby wants to help them.
What's his answer?
He says that he believes in them, and if they sign with him, he'll take them straight to the top. But at this point, Al has a warning.
What's that?
He's a pimp.
That's not so good. I mean, he's also been stroking Sam's face, or he tried to. Sam had to knock his hand away.
I didn't like this plot development?
No.
Because see, there's a lot of elements or steps of sliminess between,
yes,
bad intentions and pimp.
What I would say at this point, and we'll get to it, is that a lot of the stuff that Bobby Lee's doing just now, Al's only one step away from it. It's been shown in the past. Yeah, we find out that he's a pimp who does 20 years for statutory rape. So we do know he's a pimp, so that would lead us to believe that, yes, his club is acting as a casual...
Could well be brothel. His venue, yeah. But we don't know whether this statutory rape has already occurred or will occur in the future. So Sam, a bit worried, tells him they'll think about it, grabs his arm and marches him down the stairs. Unfortunately, before he can get him out of the house, the Reverend returns and the sight of Bobby Lee in the house enrages him. Of course it would. Coming out of the girl's bedroom.
I know, an offender, a sex pest, at the very least.
Walters tells Lee that he's a sinner.
Yeah, he pushes him up against the wall, he manhandles him here.
Bobby's got a response though, he says he's not a sinner just because he doesn't show up at church.
But the Reverend doesn't buy this, as he knows of the accusation from a 13-year-old girl, which is...
This is her word against mine, he says, which is a incredible response to that level of accusation.
Yeah, it's not denying it.
No, that's what she says.
This is how I can get off with it. And unfortunately, at this point, Al still has no data that can help.
No, if you don't lie.
I've got nothing, Sam. Either they never brought charges or they were dropped.
Your word is about as good as the devil's in this house.
Just stop it! Mr. Lee came over to try to be nice to me, not to commit a crime.
But now this man will hurt you. Don't you know that?
Does that privilege only belong to you, Daddy?
How dare you! Stop. Now don't you defy me, you hear me? Now you go to your room.
No!
I said go to your room! And you stay away from my daughter. Or as God is my judge, I will come down to that brothel. And I will rip it down with my bare hands.
Tell you something, you step 1 foot, look, and God himself won't be able to keep me off of you.
Sam, do something. This could be the start of it.
All right, I'll do it. All right, okay.
I think you should leave now. Please go.
Daddy, don't do this.
Now, this is for your own good, all right? Now, just close the door and go to your room.
No, wait just a second.
He's my chance to get out of here.
Get me out of the way.
What?
I don't know.
Then let me go talk to him.
Just give me a chance to figure out another way. Think of something. Yeah, well, I have. I want you to get me the name of all the local record companies, okay? I'll call every one of them until I can find somebody who will come and hear the Dovettes. Maybe I can convince Linnell that there's somebody out there better than Bobby Lee. Okay.
So during that clip there, the Reverend raises his hand as if he's going to hit his daughter.
He clearly loses control for a second.
Yeah.
And that's not likely to be a one-off.
No. So if he's beating his daughter, did he beat his wife?
Most likely.
Even if he doesn't, there's a threat which is emotional abuse
so
as well.
He's a bad guy.
Yeah.
Regardless of what happens later on and whatever manipulations he tries.
And maybe it'll be
with
that
Sam's assistance.
Maybe it'll be that the relationship deteriorating is a good thing. Maybe she should get out of his life because he's a danger.
Yeah. Maybe Sam should be looking for somewhere safe for her rather than his standard, rebuild the family unit as best you can, no matter what.
Put up with it. A little later, Sam finds the despondent Linnell sitting on the stairs and feeling stifled and constricted by her father and life.
She says she's just looking at her feet, though.
Yeah, she's also got a picture of her mother and tells Sam how she used to encourage her until the day she decided to die and become happy by setting herself free.
Sam says that's not how death works.
Even at this point, I wasn't sure, was she depressed? Did she kill herself? Because this whole being happy then setting yourself free would imply that's what it was.
And we learn later on that she was terminally ill, so
yeah,
I guess she was simply dying anyway.
Yeah, but to me it just felt like a depression. Most terminally ill people don't decide to go to their bed for 6 months. That's not...
She might be depressed by being terminally ill, I suppose.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's not ever made explicit.
No, it's just because of the whole sort of potentially controlling and abusive relationship that would suggest that, mental health would be...
Yep, an element.
Yeah.
Linnell tells Sam that her mother and she tried to run away together once, but were hunted down by her father and brought back to avoid his embarrassment and shame.
And she says that she too will wither and die if they don't sing in the contest. There's also a bit of touch of the typical teenage angst and over-dramatisation. You're not going to wither and die because you can't become a singer.
No, that's true. But given what we know, to a certain extent, this version could be more accurate than what we hear later on from her father.
Yes.
Given what we know about him.
Potentially, yeah.
So it's one of these things that doesn't get resolved in the episodes, which is something we have to talk about later.
Now, Sam has, at this point, Sam says he spoke to the head of Decca Records. No, you haven't. You're a teenage girl. At that time, Decca were massive. I think they might still be. I'm not sure who owns them now. But it's equivalent of saying that I spoke to the head of Warner Records and he's going to come along and you could not get... There has to be a scene here where Sam used, with maybe Al's help, some cunning to barge into his office, play the record or sing and get him to go, oh yeah, I'll give these kids a chance.
Yeah.
You're not phoning up a record label and getting the head guy to come down and listen to you.
It's unlikely, isn't it?
No, it's total not. Like, they will get thousands of demos or letters every day saying that, they want to be heard.
Yeah. You'd think it would maybe be a local company or something that would maybe make a bit more sense.
Yeah. Well, there should have been someone coming anyway, not because Sam somehow as a teenage girl managed to speak to the...
Yeah, I don't think it was a primary thought when they were writing this episode. I think it's just, there's somebody else.
Yeah.
And other Decca Records stands in for...
It could have just been that this was a big competition and the record labels always send... It's a talent spotting exercise and they're always there anyway.
Yeah, or Sam could say, I've heard that the head of Decca... No, I phoned them up and arranged it.
Yeah, I'm going to touch the Wayne's World about it anyway.
Yeah, so Sam says that the head of Decca Records wants to hear them once they find themselves a venue to perform in. He's kind of trapped or hoisted on his own petard here.
He reluctantly agrees that this can be Bobby Lee's club on the condition that there is no contract with him and she must finish high school. This is really, really weird behaviour. He's now acting like a manager as opposed
he's
to...
He's in no position to speak to her like this.
No. Imagine your mate saying to you, yeah, we'll do this, but you have to finish high school and
get lost.
Start putting down all these conditions.
We'll do season 5 of the podcast, but only if you get a second degree.
A third degree.
Okay.
It's just weird behaviour. Why is she not saying, who are you talking to?
Yeah, you would think so.
Anyway.
She's obviously vulnerable though, so she's maybe open to being influenced.
Yeah, he says this will get the Reverend on board and that he is going to invite him to hear them sing. Now, she's obviously doubtful it will work, but agrees and goes upstairs.
Yeah, but before that, I thought you would bring this up for sure. He grabs her by the shoulders in his usual way and tells her that his idea is the only way, which is what gets her to agree.
He's a scumbag. Al arrives and puts an immediate downer on the plan.
Yeah, this doesn't work.
She does time with Bobby Lee and her life is miserable.
So Sam says history won't change until I speak to the Reverend, but normally we find when Sam decides to do something, Al can tell him what effect it's going to have.
Yeah.
But anyway.
He does decide to go and talk to him the following night before the show and tells Al that they need new choreography for the performance.
Ziggy and Al are sceptical of this plan.
Yeah, Ziggy apparently thinks it'll be a disaster, causing Sam to think that the computer should have more faith in human nature, which Al tells him is the problem in the first place. Where do we find them next?
We're at the club and they are perfecting their routine.
Yeah, when a character called Rainey arrives with the arrangement and Bobby Lee tells him that Linnell will be fine with it and that's all that matters.
Yeah, Sam's distracted by this sheet music, giving Bobby an opportunity to work his magic on Linnell.
We should say that he isn't sure if he can read sheet music or not.
Yeah, Al assures him he has a degree in it.
A doctorate, yeah.
Okay, is that can you get a doctorate in reading sheet music?
Well, in music you can.
Okay.
So as he goes over it with Rainey, Bobby Lee takes the opportunity to start manipulating Linnell by showing her the dresses that he's bought for them so that they'll win the competition.
Yes, he wants them to wear them, but only on loan until they're under contract.
Yeah, he sneaks that in, so he's starting to tie them up here to his...
Yeah, and getting a positive response, he makes his big move.
And after a brief hesitation, she accepts his kiss.
Well, does she?
I think she does,
There's certainly initial hesitation.
Mm-hmm.
So we know she's not 100% happy.
No, she's not comfortable. Meanwhile, Sam is finalising the details with Rainey, who himself has become a bit of a creep.
Yes. And Paula shows up At which point Al points out they haven't seen Linnell for a while.
So he centres on her and finds that she's now being assaulted by him, and so shouts for Sam, who rushes to them and throws or drags Bobby Lee from her.
He tells Sam that he wasn't doing anything Linnell didn't want, but...
Well, even though she admits that he was hurting her, she gets upset when Sam refuses to apologise for putting his hands on him.
Yes, and Bobby Lee tells him that if they don't apologise, they won't be singing in his club, and if they want to sing in his club, they need to take whatever he dishes out.
Linnell is more concerned with the opportunity than her own safety, and makes it clear that she's more upset with Sam than the creep, and orders him to apologise or else she's going to perform on her own.
Al tells Sam at this point that she will now go on alone, but still have the performance broken up by her father, which leaves her completely without support.
And he tells Sam that he's one last chance, he's got to speak to the Reverend. And so we catch up at the church, where the Reverend is openly talking to his dead wife. So I think that, see, this is the thing then, he doesn't know anyone's there.
Yep.
And he's chatting away, so it would suggest that perhaps he is telling the truth about...
Or at least he believes it.
Yeah. Anyway, he's talking about how much he misses her, especially her wisdom and how she knew how to talk to their daughter.
At this point, Sam shows up.
He hears him state that his daughter is full of anger and how it's due to his wife dying and for him letting it happen. But Sam makes his presence known by adding that Linnell is also mad at herself. And the despondent Reverend replies by ruining his decision to let his daughter look after his ailing wife.
My mom used to say that God only gives us what he thinks we can handle.
She blames me, and now I've lost her.
No, you haven't. No, not yet, anyway.
If I try to hold on to her, she'll just run away from me.
Like your wife did.
Sylvia was sick for a long time. I mean, she stopped seeing her friends. She locked herself away from everybody. And when she found out she was dying, she tried to run away from me.
But Linnell said that you stopped them.
Them?
Yeah.
She didn't take Linnell with her.
But Linnell said...
That's what Linnell needed to believe. When her mother left, she cried for weeks. I finally found her in a hotel, and I brought her back home. Linnell never left her side, not until they came and took her away. She had a right to be angry because I left them there to face death while I came and hid in my church. I couldn't. And now I've lost my little girl, too.
Not if you stand by her. You tell her you want her to sing tonight, that you want to be there to hear her.
No, I can't. I can't do that. She has to finish school so she can become somebody.
You gotta trust her to find her own reasons to finish school. Let her make her own choices.
Well, she's 15 years old. She has plenty of time to make her own choices.
I know that, but...
Right now, I'd like for her to live her mind, okay? Thank you.
So,
See, based on that, I tend to believe his side of the story. I do think that she ran and left Linnell. The fact that he was talking to himself.
it's completely unclear what's going on. Even from his description, she cut herself off from everybody and then realised she was dying.
And why? Yes,
and then tried to leave and was away for weeks.
She's clearly very, very unhappy. This doesn't, to me, sound like just an illness that she had. There was mental issues going on here as well.
It's so vague as well. I don't understand why didn't they just have him say exactly what the issue was? Are we meant to figure it out? I don't know. Anyway, Al shows up at this point and repeats all the information he gave Sam in the previous scene.
Well, yeah, I mean, he emphasises the downer by telling him that there's a 70% chance that Linnell apologises to the slime ball, goes on alone, but doesn't win, and this makes her more desperate and vulnerable to the pervert. I always get a cheek. It was only 2 or 3 weeks ago when he was perving on a girl practically the same age as Linnell.
And running for honour.
Yes. However, the age difference is far greater. Yeah, I mean, Bobby Lee, what's he meant to be, early 20s?
I can't be any older than that.
So it's not as bad as Al being in his 50s and doing it.
Well, you would think a bit of self-awareness is required.
Anyhow, we're back in the teenage girl's bedroom.
Yeah, Paula is asking Linnell why she's doing this.
She accuses Linnell of preparing to sleep with Bobby Lee so that she can sing.
And quite aggressively, though,
Yeah.
and unsympathetically.
She denies it, but does say she will be saying sorry.
She says she just wasn't ready for what he wanted, but she's only 15 and he won't take advantage of her, she thinks.
Oh, you naive. Yeah, okay.
Paula tells her that doesn't matter to men like Bobby, and Sam immediately shows up to agree with that very important point.
She's annoyed that Sam doesn't just think that Bobby Lee respects her talent and is not only after one thing.
Nah, he respects something.
And he's, yeah.
But Sam has changed his stance.
Well, realising that Linnell's not going to back down, he agrees that the three of them will go on to the contest together and he'll do whatever Linnell needs her to do. This is not good management of the other one. It's like, we'll do whatever Linnell wants.
I think this is Sam trying to retain as much control over the situation as he's able.
Sure.
And then he tells them, or he gets them excited by saying, let's go and win the contest.
We're at the club where we see Al sneer at Bobby Lee as he flatters himself in the mirror before Rainey lets him know that the girls have turned up.
He tells them to get them into the pink sequins so they look good when they come crawling.
Before the arrival of the Reverend startles Al, who quickly leaves to inform Sam.
Reverend Walters, has a proposal for Bobby Lee.
What's that?
If he will stop Linnell from singing, they won't report him to the police for his underage activities.
Yeah, it's
I think he says for having minors in the club, but I think it's implied that he's perhaps committed other crimes.
I think there's a suggestion that he will give him something, and when he says, "Well, what are you going to give me?"
Yeah,
that's what he says. I won't go to the authorities.
It's not a great deal.
No, I mean, I think he was thinking maybe you'll pay me off.
Yeah, it's more of a blackmail, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a strange...
I think Bobby Lee would have been open to being paid off.
Yeah, I think that's what he expected. But maybe the Reverend can't afford to pay him off.
Or doesn't want to get involved in that sort of thing.
Yeah, but it's quite an aggressive way of negotiating, even if with a scumbag.
It's closer to blackmail than negotiating.
It is blackmailing, yeah. And that's not... Rarely that's going to work long term.
Jesus says, blackmail thee, the scumbags.
In any case, this is overheard by Linnell and the others, at which point Sam asks through gritted teeth that they be allowed to sing.
He then urges the unhappy Reverend Walters to trust Linnell.
But that's not the end of it, because Bobby Lee, sensing he's got the power here, or Linnell is on his side, insists that if they're going to enter the competition, they've got to sign a 7-year deal with him if they win.
Yes.
And despite the Reverend pleading, as you say, Sam asks that he trust his daughter.
At which point he completely changes his entire personality.
What does he do?
He gives her a hug and tells her to go and sing her heart out.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that authentic.
No.
She thanks him, hugs him back tightly, and tells Bobby she'll be winning it for herself, not him, as they take the stage.
They sing, and we kind of see in the wings that her father is smiling, but he becomes concerned when he overhears or oversees a conversation between Bobby Lee and another man who we guess is the Decca guy.
Well, that's what I thought, yeah. Or is this...
Or another sidekick, I don't know. He certainly talks about Linnell being a talent.
It's not Rainey, is it?
I don't think it is. It's definitely not, in fact. Right. But why would the Decca guy be talking to Bobby? Surely they're competitors if they both want to sign her.
Exactly. And he would just be in the audience.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be backstage.
I've no idea who this guy is. Maybe some kind of hired goon.
Maybe, yeah. Just one of his sort of henchmen.
Yeah. The girls come off stage and I think Bobby congratulates them, but Reverend Walters is now displeased and leaves without speaking.
So back in the church, he laments the bittersweet success as he thinks it means that he has, in fact, lost his daughter.
She's gone, Cherie. She's gone for good, you know.
A prophet named Gibran once said, "Hold your children with open arms, and they will always know they can come home to you."
Too much has gone on between us. She'll never forgive me for loving her the only way I knew how. I miss her, Cherie. I miss that angelic face of hers. I miss it. I'll never hear her sing again.
Why should the shadows fall? Why should my heart feel lonely and long for heaven and home? Since Jesus is my portion.
Yeah, that final scene, it didn't make much sense to me.
It doesn't follow from what came before.
No. So he gave her his blessing. The two of them hugged it out. They're both happy with and respected each other.
Yeah. So the only thing I can think is he's seen her hug Bobby when she comes off stage, and he thinks that that's her way to sign a contract with him, and I've lost her. But why would he lose her? Why would she suddenly disappear just because she'd signed a singing contract?
She wouldn't.
She was happy with him.
Yeah, because he's now set her free in that sense.
He's acting like he knows the original history, like
Yeah.
we do.
And also these sort of deep conversations with a teenage girl, your daughter's friend.
Yeah, that is weird as well.
Very, you wouldn't have
it's
that.
not Sam, yeah. This is
And
Cherie.
he must assume that anything he says to her will get back to the daughter.
And why is he opening up to a little girl?
It's weird. Yeah, it's creepy.
It's not right.
And also from his point of view, I would be like that.
Is he grooming her?
Well, no, but the other way around is she trying to seduce the older? But wait, right, go away. It's not appropriate for you to be here. And
Just the two of them in the room together,
Yeah.
With my daughter's friend.
yeah,
Jeez. Anyway, Linnell comes in singing for no reason that we know.
well, she's
glad that he let her sing and he trusted her, so she's, accepted that bit of independence, and it's led her back to him, I guess. That's kind of what Sam's hinting at.
sure. They tell each other that they love them.
He's in tears because his evil plan has come through.
At this point, obviously, Sam leaps. It's a very unresolved.
Yeah, we don't get any information about what's going to happen.
No.
Well, does Bobby still go to prison?
Does she have a hugely successful singing career? And
Or does she just do a few adverts like that old lady a few weeks ago?
yeah. Anyway, quickly, where do we leap into?
He leaps into a pilot with smoking a cigarette, which he drops and then tries to crash his plane.
Yeah. Oh boy. So this week, I must admit I didn't love it. I thought it was a bit disjointed. I didn't really know who to root for. There were certain aspects and elements that I could understand, the sort of concerns of the father, but we didn't know if he was a good guy or a bad guy. Too much if it was vague and
There's a lot of things seem to be missing. Like, it felt like it should be twice as long. But
No.
I know it wouldn't have been good, but it's not been tightened.
yeah.
There's just stuff that doesn't follow. I didn't enjoy the story.
And I didn't really feel, because I've got little sympathy for the daughter either. It's typical teenage, rebelling against the parents. They want to control me. You're only 15.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be having a singing career just now. The Reverend is right. You wait for a few years, finish your studies, and at 18, it's not good.
Yeah, it's entirely possible he can be right about this without being a nice guy or a good guy,
Yeah.
which he's not.
He's not, no.
No. But I think you're meant to think at the end, he just loves his daughter and it'll be fine. But you still heard all the hatred he was preaching to his congregation at the start.
And we know that if he disagrees with her, he's quite happy to raise his fist.
Yeah.
He's not as if he's learned his lesson about that.
No, Sam's just tied her down to a potentially miserable future.
Yeah, well done.
Or maybe delayed her running away by a year or something.
Yeah. There we go.
Right, let's move on. This aired originally on the 26th of February 1992 after a 4-week break. Directed by Michael W. Watkins. This was the 5th of his 6 episodes. If you want to hear more about him, go back to the podcast for A Little Miracle. The writer was, as I think we maybe mentioned during the episode, or maybe not, Deborah Pratt. 13th of her 20 writing credits for this episode. If you want to hear more about her, we talked about her in some detail in the episode The Colour of Truth. Reverend Walter is a favourite of yours, played by Harrison Page. Maybe Harrison Page is the favourite.
Yeah.
This was his only quantum leap. He's a familiar face to fans of either of our early podcasts, Columbo or Sledgehammer. He, of course, was the series regular in Sledgehammer's trunk. He also appeared in the Columbo episode Undercover with some fabulous trousers. He's also been in things like Grey's Anatomy, CSI, ER, TJ Hooker, loads more stuff. He's now 82.
Yeah, he was all, what was it? The one with Jean-Claude Van Damme, was it? AWOL, yes.
Okay, yeah. His screen appearances have been more sporadic over the past decade, but he does seem to still take on some work. Linnell was played by Tammy Townsend. This was her only quantum leap. She's also appeared in things like CSI, Friends, Days of Our Lives, Different Strokes. She's done some singing work, supporting other singers and touring. She's now 53, still active, and she's written a lengthy and enthusiastic IMDb bio of herself.
Okay. I assume that it was her doing the actual singing in the episode.
I think so, yeah. Paula was played by Takia Crystal Kema. Again, her only quantum leap, but she also appeared in things like Sharknado 4, That's So Raven, Jackie Brown, and she's done a lot of voice work on shows like Pinky and the Brain, Teen Titans, and Batman Beyond. She's now 61 and still active. Bobby Lee, finally, was played by Eric LaSalle.
Daryl, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. This was his only quantum leap, yet perhaps best known for his role in ER as Dr. Benton, but he's also in Coming to America,
Yeah.
Logan more recently, 1 Hour Photo, 24. He's also now 61 and still active, so that leads us into the trivia point that Paula, who was meant to be 15, and Bobby Lee are played by actors the same age.
Yeah, it's fair.
They were both 29 at the time the episode was filmed.
Really?
Yeah.
29? Honestly, yeah. Yeah, Eric LaSalle, I've only seen him basically in these two things, but he was a creep in both. I think maybe that's his...
Well, even in ER, he was abrasive, to say the best. So Deborah Pratt apparently had a long-standing wish to see Sam leap into an African-American woman, which was achieved in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And she reportedly told the 2009 Quantum Leap Convention that the conflict between Linnell and her father was derivative of the issues she was having with her husband, Donald Belisario, at the time.
Oh, here we go. Bit personal. Good.
In the TV listings, this episode was billed as Sam's Supreme Leap.
Oh, yeah.
And Harrison Page, who was nominated for an Emmy for his performance.
I picked that out.
Yeah, he said he was good.
On this day,
Okay.
Jack Nicklaus won his first Masters.
Yep. Decimalisation was announced in Australia. Yugoslavia was declared as a socialist federative republic with Tito named as president for life.
I like that song, Africa.
Yeah. And I like this one. The first Sunday edition of the New York Times after a recent writers' strike had been published that day. It was 700 pages long and each copy weighed 3.4 kilograms, which is 7.5 pounds for our imperialist friends.
Yeah. A heavyweight newspaper, you might say.
You could say that.
Number ones, we had in the US the Chiffons with He's So Fine, whilst in the UK it was How Do You Do It by Gerry and the Pacemakers. I've also got a little bit of trivia for the 9th of April.
Which is, okay.
The day of the competition, I think.
Yeah.
Lawrence of Arabia won the Best Picture Oscar. Gregory Peck won Best Actor. And Anne Bancroft won Best Actress. Also, Julian Lennon was born.
There you go. That's a good set of things to happen in one set of days.
What we learned?
Al learned all the latest dance moves at the Regal Theatre back in the day.
And Sam has a doctorate in music.
Okay. Next week we have Ghost Ship, where Sam has to navigate the Bermuda Triangle with an unwell passenger. So, we'll see you in 1956.
Until then,
Cheerio.
bye-bye.